Welcome to Cats for Sleep. Tonight, we're going to spend some time with a moment you may have experienced many times before, often without pausing to think about it. A gentle shift of weight, a slow settling, a small body choosing a place to rest. A cat climbs onto you, or steps carefully across you, and then, without any announcement, stops moving. They sit, or curl, or lower their weight just enough to stay. Cats do this in moments that are already quiet, when the room has softened, when movement has slowed, when nothing urgent is happening. It often happens in the evening, or late at night, or during a pause in the day when the world feels less demanding. There is nothing sudden about it, nothing that needs interpreting in the moment. The behavior appears slowly, as if it has been waiting for the right conditions to arrive. This is the moment we're exploring tonight. You may have felt it as a steady warmth on your lap, a quiet pressure on your chest, a familiar presence resting against your side. You may have noticed that it usually happens when you're already still, already seated, already resting. Tonight, we're not here to decide what it means in emotional terms. We're not here to label it as affection, attachment, or intention. And we're not here to turn it into a message that needs to be decoded. Instead, we're simply going to sit with the behavior itself. Because a cat sitting on you is not a signal that asks for action. It's not a request. It's not a declaration. It's a choice made quietly, without explanation, and without expectation. Over the course of this video, we'll gently explore why cats choose human bodies as resting places, what internal conditions make that choice possible, and what this moment may feel like from the cat's point of view. We'll take our time. There's no need to understand everything at once. For now, all that matters is that this behavior appears most often in moments of safety. Cats do not sit on people when they are alert. They do not settle when they are scanning their environment or preparing to move. They choose this position when their body has already decided that vigilance can soften. That matters, because it tells us that sitting is not about control. It's not about claiming space. It's not about sending a signal outward. It's about allowing the body to rest where conditions feel stable enough to stay. As you listen, you don't need to focus on every word. You don't need to remember details or follow a line of reasoning closely. This is not something you need to solve. If your thoughts drift, that's perfectly fine. If you fall asleep, that's exactly what this space is for. Before we continue, if you enjoy calm, long-form videos about cats, behavior, and gentle explanation designed to help you relax and fall asleep, you're welcome to subscribe to Cats for Sleep. It helps the channel grow, and it allows us to keep creating slow, quiet spaces like this one. But there's no pressure. You can simply listen and rest. Now, as we begin, it may help to picture a cat approaching a familiar place. The movement slows, the body lowers, the weight settles carefully. Nothing else happens. Nothing needs to happen. The moment completes itself. And as we continue, we'll gently trace why this quiet choice exists at all, without disturbing the stillness that allowed it to happen in the first place. For now, there's nothing you need to do. Nothing you need to hold on to. Just allow the presence to remain in the background, the same way it does for the cat. Quiet, steady, and content to stay exactly where it is. When a cat sits on you, it can feel meaningful. Not because anything obvious is happening, but because nothing is. There's no sound to explain it. No gesture that asks for a response. No clear beginning or end. And so, the human mind often steps in quietly, trying to help. Is this affection? Is this trust? Is this bonding, ownership, love? Those questions arise naturally. They're gentle questions, but they aren't required for the moment to exist. Tonight, we're going to set them down. Because when a cat sits on you, nothing is being claimed. Nothing is being declared. Nothing is being offered that needs to be accepted. The cat is not making a statement. It is not sending a message. It is not assigning meaning to the space beneath its body. It is simply resting where rest feels possible. Cats do not experience comfort as a symbol. They experience it as a condition. A body is either warm or it is not. A surface is either stable or it is not. An environment is either predictable or it is not. When those conditions align, the body settles. No explanation is attached. From the cat's perspective, this choice does not extend forward in time. It does not imply loyalty. It does not imply expectation. It does not imply repetition. It exists only in the present moment. This can feel unfamiliar to us. Humans tend to experience closeness as narrative. We look for intention. We look for continuity. We look for meaning that stretches beyond the moment itself. But cats do not organize their behavior that way. When a cat sits on you, it is not thinking about what that means tomorrow. It is not considering what it meant yesterday. It is responding to what is true right now. Right now, the body beneath it is still. Right now, the temperature is comfortable. Right now, there is no need to move. That is enough. It's important to notice that this behavior doesn't require interaction. The cat does not need to be touched. It does not need to be spoken to. It does not need to be acknowledged. In fact, it often appears after interaction has ended, after voices have softened, after movement has slowed, after the environment has stopped asking for attention. This tells us something quiet but important. Sitting is not a request for engagement. It is a response to the absence of demand. If the cat wanted something specific, food, play, access, it would not settle. Its body would remain light. Its posture would stay ready. Its attention would stay outward. Sitting is different. Sitting means the body has decided that nothing further is required. This is why trying to interpret the behavior too quickly can feel disruptive. Not because interpretation is wrong, but because it introduces motion where stillness was enough. The moment does not need to be named to be complete. You don't need to decide whether your cat is affectionate or independent. You don't need to assess your relationship. You don't need to earn or preserve anything. The cat is not evaluating you. It is not keeping score. It is not making a choice about you. It is making a choice around you. That distinction matters because it allows the moment to stay light. It removes responsibility. It removes pressure. You are not being asked to hold still forever. You are not being asked to reciprocate. You are not being asked to understand. You are simply part of the environment for a while. And environments are allowed to be neutral. As you listen, you may notice your own body responding to this idea. Your shoulders might lower. Your breathing might soften. Your attention might loosen its grip. That's not something you need to encourage. It's just something that happens when expectation fades. Cats are very good at resting without story. They don't need the moment to mean more than it does. They don't need reassurance that it will return. They rest, and when the conditions change, they move on. Nothing is lost. Nothing is undone. As we continue, we'll begin to look at why the body chooses this kind of rest at all. Why warmth, stillness, and predictability matter so much to a cat. But for now, it's enough to let this part settle. A cat sits. Nothing is being claimed. Nothing is being declared. The moment is already complete. You don't need to add anything to it. You don't need to take anything away. Just let it remain the way it is. Quiet, temporary, and perfectly sufficient. When a cat decides where to rest, the decision does not arrive the way human decisions do. There is no pause to weigh options. No moment of comparison. No internal question asking whether this place is better than another. The body moves first. A cat approaches a space, slows and settles, not because it has decided in the way we usually mean that word, but because the conditions quietly allow it. This is an important distinction. From the outside, it can look intentional. A cat steps onto a lap instead of a chair, onto a chest instead of the couch, onto a leg instead of the floor. But from the inside, the process is much simpler. The nervous system recognizes a familiar set of signals: warmth, stillness, stability, predictability, and the body responds before thought has time to form. Cats rely heavily on automatic processes. Much of their behavior, especially behavior related to rest, happens without conscious planning. These are not actions that require problem solving. They are responses that unfold when the environment feels right. This is why the movement into rest often looks smooth and uninterrupted. The cat doesn't hesitate. It doesn't test the surface. It doesn't prepare for alternatives. It simply lowers its weight. This kind of choice doesn't require awareness. It doesn't require memory in the way we usually understand it. It doesn't even require preference. It is guided by familiarity. Over time, the body learns what rest feels like. Not where rest happens, not who rest happens near, but what internal state accompanies rest when it goes well. When a cat has rested comfortably in a particular context, warmth, stillness, low noise, gentle pressure, that context becomes easier for the body to recognize again later. The recognition is quiet. It does not arrive as a thought. It arrives as a softening. Muscles release. Posture lowers. Movement slows. The body moves toward that state automatically, the way water settles into the lowest point available. This is why cats often choose resting places that surprise us. From a human perspective, a chair may look more comfortable. A bed may look softer. A couch may seem more appropriate. But comfort, for a cat, is not evaluated visually. It is not imagined in advance. It is confirmed only once the body is already there. The decision to sit on a person often happens because the cat's body recognizes the conditions before the human mind recognizes the choice. By the time you notice the weight settling, the choice has already been made. There is no deliberation to interrupt, no intention to redirect. The moment has passed quietly into rest. This also explains why cats sometimes leave just as quietly as they arrived. When conditions shift, when the body beneath them moves, when warmth changes, when stillness dissolves, the same automatic process unfolds in reverse. The cat does not reconsider. It does not negotiate. It simply stands and goes elsewhere. Nothing about the earlier moment is revoked. Nothing about the connection is undone. The body is responding to the present, not preserving the past. For humans, this can feel abrupt. We often assume that closeness implies continuity, that once a moment of rest begins, it should be maintained. But cats do not anchor their behavior to expectations. They anchor it to sensation. This makes their movements appear both deliberate and effortless at the same time. Deliberate, because they are precise. Effortless, because they are not planned. When a cat sits on you, it is not choosing you in the way we usually mean choosing. It is choosing a state of rest that happens to include you in that moment. That distinction removes pressure from both sides. You are not required to remain still forever. You are not required to interpret the moment correctly. You are not required to respond at all. The body beneath the cat is simply part of the landscape for a while. As you listen, you may notice how unfamiliar this way of choosing feels. We are used to decisions that involve effort. We are used to intention being loud and visible. We are used to meaning being attached to action. Cats remind us that not all choices announce themselves. Some choices arrive quietly, complete before we notice them. The cat rests, not because it decided to, but because nothing prevented it. And in that absence of resistance, the body found a place to settle. As we move forward, we'll begin to look more closely at what those conditions are, why warmth, stillness, and predictability play such a central role in where cats choose to rest. But for now, it's enough to recognize that this choice does not come from thought. It comes from familiarity, from a body that knows when it is safe enough to soften. There's nothing you need to hold on to here, nothing you need to interpret. Just the quiet understanding that some moments arrive fully formed. And then, when conditions change, they pass just as quietly as they arrived. When a cat settles into rest, the body begins doing something very specific. It conserves energy. Cats are small mammals with a high surface area to volume ratio, which means they lose heat more easily than larger animals. Maintaining body temperature requires effort, and effort is something the body naturally tries to reduce during periods of rest. This is not something a cat thinks about. It is something the body manages automatically. As activity slows, the nervous system shifts toward conservation. Muscles relax, movement becomes minimal, and warmth becomes more valuable. This is where resting locations begin to matter. Cats do not seek heat randomly. They seek stable heat. A sunlit patch on the floor works for a while. A radiator can feel inviting. A warm blanket may hold heat briefly. But many heat sources change. Sunlight moves. Objects cool. Surfaces lose warmth once contact is made. A living body is different. Human bodies produce heat continuously. Not in bursts, not unpredictably, but steadily over time. This steady warmth does not require adjustment. It does not spike. It does not disappear suddenly. It does not fluctuate in ways that demand attention. For a cat at rest, that consistency matters more than intensity. Extreme warmth can be uncomfortable. Inconsistent warmth requires vigilance. But moderate, stable warmth allows the body to settle without monitoring. This is why cats often choose human bodies during rest. Not because humans are special, but because the warmth they provide is reliable. A lap stays warm, a chest stays warm, a leg or side maintains temperature even as the room cools. The cat does not need to check. It does not need to reposition constantly. It does not need to wake to reassess. The body can stay where it is. This becomes especially noticeable during sleep cycles. As a cat transitions from light rest into deeper sleep, body temperature regulation becomes more passive. The animal relies more on its surroundings to help maintain warmth. Choosing a surface that does not require frequent adjustment reduces interruptions. In this way, warmth supports continuity. The cat does not need to wake to search for a better place. It does not need to lift its head or shift its posture. The environment continues to provide what the body needs without effort. This is one reason cats often choose to sit on people at night or in the evening. Ambient temperatures tend to drop. Rooms cool. Surfaces lose retained heat. A living body remains steady. Importantly, the cat is not distinguishing between who the warmth belongs to. It is responding to how the warmth behaves. The body does not evaluate emotional connection. It evaluates thermal stability. From the cat's perspective, a human at rest is not a person in that moment. It is a warm surface with predictable output. This reframing matters because it removes the need to assign intention to the behavior. It removes the idea that the cat is making a statement. It returns the explanation to the body where it belongs. Cats are very efficient animals. They are economical with movement. They do not expend energy unless there is a reason to. Choosing a resting place that supports warmth without fluctuation is one of the simplest ways to conserve energy. This doesn't mean cats always seek the warmest place. It means they seek the place where warmth remains consistent enough that the body can relax fully. A warm lap offers that. A warm chest offers that. Even a warm leg or arm can offer that, as long as it remains still. The stability of heat allows muscles to soften. It allows breathing to slow. It allows the nervous system to reduce unnecessary alertness. In this way, warmth becomes a quiet signal, not a message, not a request, just a condition that supports rest. You may notice that cats often adjust themselves slightly once they settle. A small turn, a repositioning of paws, a subtle shift closer. This is not restlessness. It is calibration. The body fine-tunes contact until warmth feels evenly distributed. Once that balance is found, movement stops. And when the warmth remains stable, the body stays. If the warmth changes, if the human shifts, stands, or moves, the calibration breaks. The body registers inconsistency, and the same automatic process begins again. The cat may leave, or it may resettle elsewhere. Nothing about the previous moment is negated. The body is simply responding to present conditions. This is the quiet logic of thermoregulation. It is practical, it is efficient, and it does not carry emotional meaning. As you listen, you might notice how natural this explanation feels. not romantic, not disappointing, just grounded. Cats sit on warm, stable surfaces because doing so supports rest. Human bodies often meet that requirement. That is enough. As we move forward, we'll begin to look beyond temperature alone. We'll explore how texture and gentle resistance work alongside warmth to create a resting place that feels stable and predictable. But for now, it's enough to let this idea settle. Warmth that does not fluctuate allows the body to stop checking. It allows rest to deepen, and it allows the moment to remain quiet, without needing to become anything more than it already is. Warmth alone is not always enough to support rest. A surface can be warm and still feel wrong. It can hold heat, but offer no stability. It can feel inviting at first, then uncomfortable once the body settles. For a cat, comfort depends not only on temperature, but on how a surface responds to weight. This is where softness and resistance come together. Cats prefer surfaces that yield slightly, not surfaces that collapse, not surfaces that remain rigid, but surfaces that respond just enough to confirm contact. A human body does this naturally. When a cat settles onto a lap or chest, the surface beneath them gives a little. The muscles shift. The fabric compresses. The shape adjusts subtly around their weight. This response provides feedback. The body receives information through the paws, the chest, the belly, and the sides. Pressure is returned evenly. The surface confirms, without force, that the cat is supported. This kind of feedback helps stabilize posture. If a surface is too soft, the body sinks unevenly. Muscles must stay engaged to maintain balance. Small adjustments continue. True rest becomes difficult. If a surface is too hard, pressure concentrates in narrow points. Bones bear more load. The body remains alert, prepared to shift. Gentle resistance avoids both extremes. It allows the body to settle without effort. It distributes pressure. It gives the nervous system consistent information about where the body is in space. This is especially important for animals that rest lightly. Cats do not sleep heavily all at once. They move through stages of rest, some shallow, some deeper. Throughout these stages, the body remains aware of its position. A surface that responds predictably makes that awareness effortless. This is why cats often avoid surfaces that seem comfortable to us. A thick pillow may be too unstable. A deep cushion may shift unpredictably. A soft bed may compress unevenly as the cat moves. What looks plush may require constant adjustment. A human body, by contrast, tends to respond slowly. It adjusts under weight, but does not continue shifting. Once settled, it holds its shape. This creates a feeling of containment. The cat's body knows where it ends and where the surface begins. Edges are defined. Pressure remains steady. There are no sudden changes to monitor. This predictability matters more than softness alone. Comfort, for a cat, is not about luxury. It is about reliability. When a surface behaves the same way from moment to moment, the body does not need to stay alert. Muscles can release. Breathing can slow. Posture can soften without risk. This is why cats often choose the same resting spots repeatedly, not because they are attached to the object itself, but because the body recognizes the feedback it provides. A lap that yields gently today will likely do so tomorrow. A chest that supports evenly will continue to do so as long as it remains still. The body remembers this consistency. Again, this memory is not conscious. The cat is not thinking about past comfort. The body simply recognizes a familiar pattern of pressure and response. When that pattern appears, rest follows naturally. This also explains why cats may reposition themselves carefully once they settle. They shift a paw, they tuck a leg, they turn slightly. These movements are not signs of discomfort. They are fine adjustments, aligning the body with the surface until pressure feels even. Once that alignment is achieved, movement stops. From the outside, this may look deliberate. From the inside, it is automatic. The body is finding the point where it no longer needs to work. Gentle resistance allows that point to exist. It supports the spine. It stabilizes the hips. It distributes weight in a way that does not demand correction. For a cat, this is what makes rest sustainable. If the surface changes, if muscles tense, if posture shifts, if the shape beneath them alters too much, the feedback changes. The body registers instability. Muscles re-engage. The cat may adjust or leave. This is not rejection. It is recalibration. The body is responding to new information. Understanding this can soften how we interpret these moments. A cat leaving does not mean something was wrong. It means the surface no longer behaved the way it needed to. Just as settling did not require intention, leaving does not carry meaning. It is simply the same process continuing. As you listen, you may notice how much of this explanation lives in the body, not the mind. Pressure, response, stability. These are physical conditions. They do not require emotion. They do not require narrative. They simply allow rest to happen. In the next section, we'll look at another quiet condition that makes this possible. Not warmth, not texture, but stillness. We'll explore why resting humans behave differently from moving ones, and why the absence of motion itself becomes a signal that allows the body to settle. For now, it's enough to let this layer rest where it is. Softness with gentle resistance gives the body permission to stop adjusting. It confirms support without effort, and it allows rest to deepen quietly without drawing attention to itself. Beyond warmth and texture, there is another condition that quietly shapes where cats choose to rest. Stillness. Cats are highly sensitive to movement, not just obvious motion, but small changes. A shift in posture, a change in breathing rhythm, a subtle adjustment of balance. Movement carries information. It signals uncertainty. It signals possibility. It signals that something may change without warning. For a cat, this matters. Even during rest, a cat's nervous system remains partially alert. This is not anxiety. It is a baseline state shaped by evolution. In the wild, rest is rarely absolute. The body stays prepared to respond. Attention stays loosely available. Because of this, full rest requires the environment to become predictably quiet. When a human is active, the body is inconsistent. Weight shifts, muscles engage and release. Limbs move unexpectedly. Sounds follow movement. All of this asks the cat's nervous system to stay engaged. A moving surface is not unsafe, but it is uncertain. A resting human is different. When a person sits, reclines, or lies down and remains still, their body becomes predictable. The rhythm of breathing stabilizes. Muscle tension reduces. The shape of the body changes slowly, if at all. From the cat's perspective, this is a meaningful shift. Stillness signals that nothing is about to happen. It tells the nervous system that monitoring can soften, that constant reassessment is no longer required, that the environment is unlikely to change suddenly. This is why cats often wait. They do not immediately settle when a person enters a room. They may observe, they may circle, they may pause nearby. They are watching for stillness. Once movement slows and remains slow, the body begins to recognize a window of opportunity. Not an opportunity for interaction, an opportunity for rest. This timing is important. Cats rarely sit on people who are fidgeting, shifting positions, or preparing to stand. Even if warmth and softness are present, motion introduces unpredictability. The body remains light. Posture stays ready. Rest does not deepen. Stillness removes that tension. It allows the cat to lower its weight fully, to stop bracing, to stop anticipating change. This is also why cats often leave as soon as movement resumes. A shift in posture, a change in breathing, a small adjustment. The signal changes. The nervous system responds immediately. Muscles engage. The body prepares to move. Again, this is not emotional. It is responsive. The cat is not reacting to rejection or disruption. It is responding to new information. Stillness for a cat is not the absence of activity. It is a condition. It tells the body that the environment has entered a low-demand state, that nothing needs to be monitored closely, that rest can unfold without interruption. This is especially true during sleep transitions. As cats move from light rest toward deeper sleep, their tolerance for unpredictability decreases. They require more stable conditions to remain settled. A still human provides that. Breathing remains rhythmic. Weight stays consistent. The surface does not shift unexpectedly. The cat does not need to wake to reassess. The body can continue resting without interruption. Over time, this association strengthens. Not consciously, not emotionally. The body learns that stillness supports rest. So when a familiar human becomes still, the body responds, not with intention, but with recognition. This is why cats often choose moments when we are reading, watching quietly, or preparing to sleep, not because they seek attention, but because stillness has arrived. From the outside, it can look deliberate. From the inside, it is automatic. The environment changes. The body responds. As you listen, you may notice how stillness affects you as well. How your own breathing slows, how your attention softens, how movement becomes less necessary. This shared stillness does not require interaction. It does not require awareness. It simply exists. In the next phase, we'll begin to look at what stillness allows beyond comfort. We'll explore how reduced movement and predictability make it possible for a cat to lower vigilance without fear. But for now, it's enough to rest with this idea. Stillness is not empty. It is informative. It tells the body that it can stop preparing, that nothing is about to demand response, that rest, for a while, is allowed to continue. Even in moments of calm, a cat is never completely unaware. This is not tension. It is not fear. It is simply how a cat's nervous system is built. Cats are both predators and potential prey. Their bodies are designed to notice changes, to register movement, to remain lightly connected to their surroundings, even during rest. Because of this, rest for a cat is not the same as absence of awareness. It is a careful balance between relaxation and readiness. Most of the time, a cat remains partially alert. Ears rotate, eyes open briefly, then close again. Muscles stay ready to engage if needed. This is normal. It allows the body to rest without becoming vulnerable. But deeper rest requires something more. It requires the ability to reduce monitoring. Monitoring is the quiet process of scanning the environment, listening for changes, noticing shifts in air, sound, and movement. When monitoring is high, rest stays light. Sleep remains shallow. The body does not fully settle. For a cat to move beyond this state, the environment must provide signals that scanning can ease. These signals are subtle. They are not announcements. They are conditions. Predictability is one of the strongest. When an environment behaves the same way from moment to moment, there is less to track. No new information arrives. Nothing needs interpretation. The body can relax its vigilance slightly. A familiar room at night behaves predictably. Sounds are minimal. Light is low. Movement is rare. A resting human can contribute to this predictability. When a cat sits on a person who is still, the environment becomes simpler. There are fewer directions to monitor, fewer edges to track, fewer changes to anticipate. The cat's body does not need to watch the room and the surface separately. Both become one stable context. This allows monitoring to narrow. Instead of scanning widely, attention can soften inward. Breathing can slow. Posture can release. The cat is not surrendering awareness. It is conserving it. This is an important distinction. Reduced monitoring does not mean complete trust. It means the environment has met enough conditions that constant checking is no longer necessary. Cats choose rest locations that support this reduction. High, enclosed, or bordered spaces do this well. Corners, shelves, boxes, edges of furniture. These spaces limit exposure. They reduce the number of directions from which something unexpected might appear. A human body, when still, can provide a similar effect. A lap creates boundaries. A chest offers elevation. Arms and legs form edges. The cat's body is supported and partially enclosed without being restricted. This physical arrangement reduces the need for scanning. The cat does not need to monitor its back, or its sides, or the surface beneath it. The environment feels contained. Containment supports rest. This is why cats often choose positions that place their bodies against us, rather than directly on open surfaces. Not because they are seeking closeness, but because the body beside them reduces exposure. The cat's nervous system registers fewer unknowns, fewer possibilities to evaluate. This reduction is what allows rest to deepen. It is not affection. It is not bonding. It is not a declaration of safety. It is a practical response to environmental cues. The cat is choosing a location where vigilance can soften without disappearing. As you listen, you may notice how familiar this feels in your own body, how rest becomes easier when fewer things demand attention, when the environment feels contained, when unpredictability fades. Cats experience this same process, quietly and continuously. They are not looking for emotional reassurance. They are looking for conditions that allow the body to stop working so hard. When those conditions are present, the body settles. If those conditions change, if movement resumes, if sound increases, if boundaries shift, monitoring returns. The cat may adjust or leave. Again, nothing is lost, nothing is broken. The body is simply responding to new information. As we move forward, we'll begin to explore how this reduction in monitoring can be supported not only by physical conditions, but by shared rhythms. We'll look at how calm bodies influence one another and how rest can sometimes be supported without direct interaction. For now, it's enough to recognize this quiet truth. Rest is not the absence of awareness. It is the ability to lower it just enough. And when the environment allows that to happen, the body knows where to go. When a cat settles into rest near a human, the environment changes in a quiet way. Not because anything new appears, but because something slows. Breathing becomes rhythmic. Movement becomes minimal. Sound fades into background patterns rather than sharp signals. These changes do not go unnoticed. Cats are highly responsive to the nervous states of other living bodies. Not in an emotional or empathetic sense, but in a physiological one. Nervous systems influence one another simply by being nearby. This is not unique to cats. Across many species, bodies respond to the rhythms around them. Breathing patterns, posture, stillness. When a human is calm and at rest, their body broadcasts stability, not through intention, but through consistency. Breathing slows and becomes regular. Muscle tension reduces. Movements, if they occur, are gradual and predictable. For a cat, this information matters. The cat's nervous system does not need to interpret what it means. It does not assign emotional value to it. It simply responds. Slow, steady rhythms tend to lower arousal. They signal that the environment is not in a state of urgency. This is one reason cats often choose to rest on or near people during quiet activities. Reading, watching something calmly, lying down at night. In these moments, the human body becomes a source of regulation, not active regulation, not deliberate soothing, just passive influence. The cat's body begins to mirror the pace around it. Breathing slows, heart rate eases, muscles soften. This process is subtle. It does not announce itself. It unfolds gradually. The cat does not become calmer because it wants to. It becomes calmer because the environment supports that shift. This is sometimes described as co-regulation, but that term can imply cooperation or intention. What is happening here is simpler. It is shared rhythm. When two bodies remain close and still, their rhythms tend to align over time. This does not require attention. It does not require awareness. It happens automatically. A cat resting on a human body is exposed to steady breathing, gentle rises and falls, consistent pacing. This regularity gives the cat's nervous system a reference point, a pattern that remains stable over time. Unpredictable environments require constant updating. Predictable rhythms allow the body to stop checking. This is why sudden changes, sharp movements, irregular breathing, abrupt shifts can disrupt rest. The rhythm breaks, the signal changes, the cat's body responds immediately. But when rhythm remains steady, rest deepens. This borrowed calm is not dependency. The cat is not relying on the human to feel safe. It is responding to the current state of the environment. If the same conditions existed elsewhere, steady warmth, stillness, predictable rhythm, the body would respond the same way. The human happens to provide these conditions in that moment. This also explains why cats do not always seek physical contact for rest. Some cats prefer to rest nearby, on the same bed, in the same room, within range of the same rhythms. The effect does not require direct contact. It requires proximity to steadiness. A calm presence nearby can be enough. Again, this does not imply attachment or emotional reliance. It reflects how nervous systems respond to consistency. The cat is not absorbing emotion. It is responding to pattern. As you listen, you may notice how your own body responds to steady rhythm, how breathing slows when you become aware of it, how stillness becomes easier when nothing interrupts it. This is not something you need to manage. It is something the body does naturally. Cats live in this process continuously. They adjust to rhythms around them without thinking. They move toward conditions that support ease. When a cat rests on you, it may be borrowing this calm. Not because it needs you, but because your body, in that moment, provides a rhythm that supports rest. And when that rhythm changes, the body responds. The cat may shift, or move away, or rest elsewhere. Nothing about the connection is altered. Nothing has been taken or given. The nervous system is simply updating its information. In the next section, we'll look at how physical positioning, height, boundaries, and edges adds another layer of stability to this process. We'll explore why certain positions feel more secure than others, and how containment quietly supports rest without requiring closeness. For now, it's enough to let this idea settle. Calm does not always come from within. Sometimes it is borrowed from the environment, shared quietly, returned when no longer needed. And in that exchange, rest finds a place to stay. When a cat chooses a place to rest, position matters. Not just in relation to warmth or texture, but in relation to space. Cats are spatially aware animals. They notice edges, they track height, they register what surrounds them and what does not. This awareness is not anxious, it is structural. The body wants to know where it ends and where the environment begins. Spaces that provide clear boundaries require less monitoring. There are fewer directions to track, fewer angles to scan. This is why cats are drawn to boxes, shelves, corners, and window ledges. These spaces define limits. They create edges the body can rely on. Height adds another layer. An elevated position gives the body information. It changes perspective. It reduces approach paths. It allows the cat to rest without needing to watch every direction equally. This does not mean cats seek dominance. It means height simplifies awareness. A surface that lifts the body slightly allows monitoring to narrow. The environment becomes easier to read. When a cat rests on a human body, these same spatial principles often apply. A lap creates a natural boundary. Legs form sides. The curve of the body defines an edge. A chest provides elevation. The cat is lifted slightly above the surrounding surface. The head and body have a clearer field. Arms, when still, can form borders. A shoulder or side can act as a stable wall. These features are not symbolic. They are structural. The cat's body registers containment. Containment reduces the need to monitor the entire environment. Attention can focus on fewer directions. Awareness can soften without disappearing. This is one reason cats often choose specific positions when sitting on people. They do not settle randomly. They align themselves in ways that maximize predictability. Facing outward, tucking against an arm, settling into the curve of a lap. These positions offer information. They tell the body where space is limited and where it remains open. Predictable edges reduce uncertainty. An open, flat surface requires constant scanning. Anything could approach from any direction. The body must remain lightly alert. A contained surface simplifies that work. When the environment behaves consistently, the nervous system can reduce effort. Muscles relax, posture lowers, breathing slows. This is why cats may move if their boundaries shift. If a leg changes position, if an arm lifts, if the shape of the surface beneath them alters, the edges change, predictability breaks, the body registers new information and responds. Again, this is not emotional. It is practical. The cat is not leaving because it feels unwelcome. It is adjusting to altered spatial conditions. Understanding this can make these moments feel lighter, less personal, less loaded. The cat is not evaluating the relationship. It is evaluating the space. Height, boundaries, and edges work together to support rest. They reduce variables. They narrow the field of awareness. When these conditions are present, rest becomes easier to maintain. A human body, when still, can provide all three. Elevation, containment, predictable edges, not always, not indefinitely, but often enough. This is why cats may choose people as resting places in certain moments and not others. The conditions align briefly. The body responds. When those conditions no longer align, the body moves on. Nothing has changed except the environment. As you listen, you may notice how much effort it takes to remain aware of open space, how boundaries provide a sense of ease, how predictable edges allow attention to soften. Cats respond to these same principles instinctively. They do not need to name them. They do not need to understand them. The body simply moves toward positions that require less work. In this way, a lap is not a symbol. A chest is not a message. A shoulder is not an invitation. They are spatial solutions. They provide elevation, boundaries, and predictability in a single place. As we continue, we'll begin to move deeper into how these physical conditions allow vigilance to soften further, and how rest deepens when the body no longer needs to watch so many directions at once. For now, it's enough to rest with this image. A cat settling into a position where the world feels smaller, where edges are known, where nothing unexpected is likely to happen. And in that smaller, more predictable space, the body allows itself to rest. When a cat rests successfully in a particular place, something quiet happens. Nothing dramatic, nothing emotional, nothing that needs attention. The body simply notes that rest occurred without interruption. This is how familiarity begins. Cats do not remember comfort the way humans often do. They do not store it as a story. They do not attach it to meaning, affection, or intention. They store it as a condition, a certain arrangement of warmth, a certain level of stillness, a certain quality of pressure, a certain reduction in monitoring. When these elements come together and rest is allowed to unfold, the body registers the outcome. Not consciously, not symbolically, physiologically. Calm states leave traces. The nervous system remembers what it felt like when nothing went wrong, when no adjustment was required, when vigilance could soften without consequence. That memory does not need emotion to exist. It does not need joy. It does not need attachment. It does not need reassurance. It is simply a reference point. This is how environments become familiar. A cat may rest on a person once, then again, then again. Not because the cat is growing closer in an emotional sense, but because the body has learned that this arrangement supports rest. Repetition strengthens this recognition. Each time the body settles and remains settled, the association becomes easier to access. The threshold lowers. Less confirmation is needed. The cat does not need to test the surface as carefully. It does not need to monitor as closely. The body already knows what to expect. This is why familiar resting places are chosen more quickly over time. The first time may involve circling, pausing, adjusting. Later, the body moves more directly. The process shortens. The cat settles with less hesitation. This is not preference in the emotional sense. It is efficiency. The body is conserving energy by returning to conditions that have already proven stable. Importantly, this familiarity does not imply exclusivity. A cat can become familiar with many resting places: a couch, a chair, a window ledge, a lap. Each one represents a known configuration of conditions. Each one supports rest in a slightly different way. The body holds these references quietly. It does not rank them. It does not compare them. It simply recognizes them when the moment calls for rest. This is why cats may rotate between resting places without apparent reason. They are not changing their mind. They are responding to subtle shifts in the environment. Temperature, light, noise, movement. When one familiar set of conditions fades, another becomes more suitable. The body moves accordingly. From a human perspective, it can be tempting to read meaning into this repetition, to assume that returning to the same person implies attachment, or that choosing one place over another reflects preference or loyalty. But for the cat, the process remains grounded in sensation. The body remembers what worked. It returns to what works again when conditions match. That's all. This understanding removes pressure from the moment. A cat sitting on you repeatedly does not mean you are being chosen in a personal sense. It means your body, in those moments, consistently provided conditions that allowed rest. That is a physical success, not an emotional statement. And just as familiarity can form, it can also fade. If conditions change over time, If movement increases, if stillness becomes rare, if predictability breaks, the body updates its references. The cat may rest elsewhere, or rest less often in that spot. Nothing is lost. Nothing is withdrawn. The nervous system is simply responding to new information. Familiarity is flexible. It adapts without resistance. It does not cling. This makes feline comfort resilient. Cats do not depend on one place to rest. They do not require one configuration to feel safe. They carry their capacity for rest with them. They place it where conditions allow. As you listen, you may notice how gentle this process feels, how little it asks of anyone involved, how it allows comfort to exist without expectation. Familiarity, in this sense, is not attachment. It is recognition. The body recognizes what allows it to soften. It returns when those conditions appear. It moves on when they change. Nothing needs to be promised. Nothing needs to be maintained. Comfort becomes familiar simply by being allowed to happen. And when familiarity is present, rest arrives more easily, quieter, with less effort. As we continue, we'll look more closely at the kind of memory involved in this process. Not emotional memory, but procedural calm. The kind of knowing that does not ask why, only where. For now, it's enough to let this idea settle. Comfort does not need meaning to repeat. It only needs consistency. And when the body recognizes that consistency, it knows where to rest. When a cat returns to a familiar resting place, there is no decision to revisit it. The body simply goes. This kind of return is guided by a form of memory that does not involve emotion, intention, or reflection. It is procedural memory. Procedural memory is the system that stores how something happens, not why. It governs movement, posture, and habitual responses. It allows actions to unfold smoothly without conscious oversight. Cats rely on this system heavily. Much of their daily behavior, walking, grooming, stretching, resting, unfolds through procedural patterns. These patterns form early and persist because they reduce effort. Rest is no exception. When a cat finds a place where rest unfolds easily, the body learns the pathway to that state, not intellectually, not symbolically, physically. The muscles remember how to settle. The posture remembers where to lower. The nervous system remembers how much vigilance can be released. This memory does not store a reason. It does not store a story. It does not attach feeling. It stores a sequence, approach, pause, lower, settle. Over time, this sequence becomes smoother. The cat does not think, "This place is safe." The body simply moves as if it already knows. This is why cats can appear purposeful without appearing thoughtful. They walk directly to a familiar spot. They settle quickly. They adjust less. The process has become efficient. Procedural calm is different from emotional attachment. Attachment involves expectation. It involves continuity. It involves concern about loss or change. Procedural calm involves none of that. If the familiar path is available, the body follows it. If it is not, the body adapts. No distress, no confusion, no sense of absence. This adaptability is important. Cats live in environments that change. Light shifts, temperature varies, human schedules fluctuate. Procedural memory allows rest to remain possible even as details change. The body does not need the exact same conditions every time. It needs a familiar pattern of sensations. This is why cats may settle on different people at different times, or on different parts of the same person, or near, rather than on, when direct contact is unavailable. The body is following the path of least effort toward calm. It is not choosing based on preference. It is choosing based on familiarity. Again, this familiarity is not emotional. The body is not remembering who. It is remembering how. How rest begins, how vigilance softens, how stillness is maintained. This explains why cats can rest deeply in places that appear impersonal. A chair, a box, a shelf. If the sequence unfolds smoothly, the body rests, and it explains why cats may leave without warning. The sequence breaks, the body updates, a new path is followed. Nothing has gone wrong. From a human perspective, this can feel confusing. We often associate repetition with meaning. We assume that returning implies attachment, but procedural calm does not work that way. It is neutral. It is efficient. It is quiet. The body is simply doing what it has learned requires the least effort. This kind of memory is resilient. It does not cling to one outcome. It adapts without distress. Cats do not worry about where they rested yesterday. They do not anticipate where they will rest tomorrow. They rest where the sequence allows it now. As you listen, you may notice how this idea eases interpretation, how it removes the need to evaluate behavior, how it allows moments to stand on their own. A cat sitting on you does not carry meaning forward. It does not create obligation. It does not ask for preservation. It is simply a familiar path unfolding again. In the next section, we'll layer in another quiet factor that supports this familiarity. Not touch, not warmth, but scent. We'll explore how background scent information helps the body relax without requiring closeness or attention. For now, it's enough to let this settle. Procedural calm does not ask why. It does not seek explanation. It remembers only what allows the body to soften. And when that pattern appears, the body follows it, quietly, effortlessly, and without needing anything more. When a cat enters a space, scent is often the first thing it notices. Not in the way humans notice a smell, but as a layer of information that already exists before anything else happens. Cats live in a world structured heavily by scent. It tells them what is familiar, what has changed, what can be ignored. This information is processed quietly. There is no emotional reaction attached to it. It is simply part of how the environment is read. Familiar scent does not excite a cat. It calms one. When a space carries a scent that the body recognizes, less attention is required. There is no need to investigate, no need to monitor. The environment has already been accounted for. This is why cats often rub against objects or people. Not to mark ownership, but to normalize the scent of the environment. By distributing familiar scent, the cat reduces unpredictability. The environment becomes easier to ignore. A familiar human body carries layered scent information. Skin, clothing, fabric, detergent, household air. Over time, these layers blend into a stable background. When a cat rests near or on a person, it is exposed to this familiar scent field. Not sharply, not overwhelmingly, subtly. This familiarity lowers the body's need to remain alert. Scent, in this context, does not create closeness. It creates stability. The cat does not need to be in contact with the person for this effect to occur. Proximity is often enough. A cat resting at the foot of the bed, on the back of the couch, or beside a chair is still immersed in the same scent environment. This is why cats can rest deeply near people without touching them. The nervous system recognizes the environment as known. There is nothing new to track. Importantly, familiar scent does not require affection. It does not require attachment. It does not require interaction. It simply signals that this environment has been experienced before without consequence. This is especially relevant during rest. When the body transitions towards sleep, sensitivity to novelty increases. New smells can trigger investigation. Familiar smells can be ignored. Ignoring information is essential for rest. A space that smells familiar allows the body to stop processing sensory input. The environment fades into the background. A human body, when present regularly, becomes part of that background. Again, this does not elevate the human to a special role. It integrates them into the environment. From the cat's perspective, a person is not a focus in this moment. They are part of the sensory landscape. This reframing matters because it removes the idea that closeness requires intention. It allows presence to be neutral. A cat sitting on you is not seeking your scent. It is responding to a space where scent is already known and unremarkable. This is why sudden changes in scent can disrupt rest. A new detergent, a strong perfume, a different fabric. These introduce novelty. The environment becomes louder. The body may need to re-evaluate. The cat may shift, or move away, or choose a different resting place. This is not rejection. It is sensory adjustment. The body is responding to new information. Understanding this helps soften how we interpret these moments. They are not relational. They are environmental. Scent is not a message. It is context. As you listen, you may notice how background familiarity affects your own ability to rest. How familiar smells fade. How unfamiliar ones pull attention. Cats navigate this constantly. They move toward environments that require the least sensory work. Familiar scent reduces the need to stay alert. It allows attention to withdraw. It supports stillness. In the next section, we'll look at how proximity itself functions in this same neutral way. How being close does not always mean attachment, and how comfort can exist without bonding. For now, it's enough to let this layer settle. Scent does not need to be noticed to matter. It works quietly in the background, allowing the body to rest without needing to know why. If a cat rests near a person, it can be easy to assume that closeness means connection. That proximity implies attachment. That being near is the same as being bonded. For humans, closeness often carries emotional weight. We associate physical nearness with relationship, intention, and meaning. Cats do not organize their experience this way. For a cat, proximity is often practical before it is personal. It reflects conditions, not commitments. A cat may choose to rest close to a person because the space around them meets certain needs. Warmth, stillness, predictability, familiar scent. These needs can be met without interaction, without eye contact, without touch. The presence itself is enough. This is why cats often rest near people without engaging with them. They may face away. They may keep their eyes closed. They may remain still for long periods without acknowledging the human at all. From the cat's perspective, nothing is missing. The environment is doing its job. This kind of proximity does not imply dependency. The cat is not relying on the person emotionally. It is responding to the physical and sensory conditions the space provides. Closeness, in this context, is neutral. It does not require reciprocation. It does not create obligation. It does not demand maintenance. A cat resting near you is not asking for reassurance. It is not checking for availability. It is not monitoring your presence for emotional safety. It is simply resting where conditions feel stable. This neutrality can be difficult for humans to accept. We often want closeness to mean something. We look for confirmation. We look for continuity. But cats are comfortable with moments that stand alone. A cat may rest near you today and choose a different place tomorrow. Not because something has changed between you, but because the environment has changed. Light, noise, temperature, movement. These variables matter more than relationship in these moments. Understanding this does not diminish the experience. It clarifies it. It allows closeness to exist without pressure. It allows presence without expectation. A cat sitting beside you does not need to be interpreted as affection to be allowed. It does not need to promise return. It does not need to deepen over time. It is complete as it is. This perspective also helps explain why cats can rest near strangers or unfamiliar people under the right conditions. If stillness, warmth, and predictability are present, proximity may occur. Again, this is not emotional openness. It is environmental suitability. The cat's body does not distinguish between people in these moments. It distinguishes between conditions. This does not mean cats are indifferent. It means their comfort behaviors are grounded in sensation, not symbolism. Cats can form social bonds. They can show preference. They can seek interaction. But resting near someone does not automatically reflect those processes. It reflects a moment where the body found what it needed nearby. As you listen, you may notice how relieving this idea feels, how it removes the need to interpret or respond, how it allows moments to remain light. You are not required to hold still forever. You are not required to engage. You are not required to return anything. The cat is not making a claim on you. It is sharing space briefly. And when the moment ends, it ends cleanly. Nothing is lost. Nothing is withdrawn. As we move into the next phase, we'll begin to shift toward how the body regulates itself once rest has begun. We'll explore how gentle pressure, vibration, and stillness support deeper relaxation and sleep. For now, it's enough to rest with this understanding. Proximity does not have to mean attachment. Closeness does not have to imply bond. Sometimes, being near is simply the most comfortable place to be. And in those moments, that is more than enough. Once a cat has settled into a place where warmth, stillness, and familiarity align, another quiet process begins. The body responds to pressure, not forceful pressure, not restrictive pressure, but gentle, evenly distributed contact. Cats, like many mammals, respond to pressure through their nervous system. When pressure is applied in a slow, predictable way, the body tends to shift toward a calmer state. This is not an emotional response. It is physiological. Gentle pressure provides information. It tells the body where it is supported. It reduces the need for constant postural adjustment. When a cat rests on a human body, pressure is shared. The cat's weight is supported. The surface beneath responds slightly. The contact remains steady. This combination allows the cat's muscles to release. In contrast, resting without pressure, hovering, perching, or balancing, requires ongoing engagement. Muscles stay active. Posture remains alert. Pressure changes that. It anchors the body. This is why cats often choose to rest with part of their body in contact with something solid. A wall, the side of a couch, a human leg or torso. The contact does not need to be strong. It needs to be consistent. Consistent pressure reduces uncertainty. The nervous system receives clear feedback about position and support. There is no need to check repeatedly. The body can stop making small adjustments. This is similar to how nesting works in many animals. Nesting behaviors create enclosed, supportive environments. They limit movement. They distribute pressure evenly. They reduce exposure. For a cat resting on a person, the body provides a partial nest. Not complete, not enclosing, but sufficient. The cat's weight settles. The surface beneath responds. The contact remains predictable. This helps the body transition from light rest toward deeper relaxation. Importantly, this effect does not depend on emotional connection. The nervous system does not require attachment for pressure to be calming. The response occurs even in neutral contexts. This is why weighted blankets can feel calming to humans, why animals rest against one another without bonding, why pressure is often soothing across species. The effect is physical. For cats, pressure reduces arousal by signaling stability. It tells the body that nothing is shifting. Nothing is about to change suddenly. This is especially helpful during sleep transitions. As a cat moves closer to sleep, tolerance for unpredictability decreases. The body prefers conditions that remain steady. Gentle pressure supports that steadiness. It also explains why cats may prefer certain positions when resting on people. Curling rather than stretching. Tucking paws rather than extending them. Leaning into contact rather than hovering. These positions maximize consistent pressure. Once the body finds a position where pressure feels even and stable, movement slows. Muscles soften. Breathing deepens. The cat is not consciously seeking this outcome. The body is responding automatically. If pressure changes, if the surface shifts, if contact becomes uneven, the body notices. The nervous system updates. The cat may adjust or leave. Again, this is not emotional. It is responsive. Understanding this helps remove interpretation. A cat moving away is not rejecting contact. It is responding to altered pressure. Pressure, in this context, is information. It tells the body whether rest can continue without effort. As you listen, you may notice how pressure affects your own body, how leaning into a chair, resting against a surface, or feeling supported allows muscles to release. This response does not require thought. It happens naturally. Cats rely on this process constantly. They move toward conditions that reduce work. Gentle pressure does that. In the next section, we'll look at how another quiet behavior often appears once pressure and stillness are established. We'll explore purring, not as communication, but as a regulatory process that often follows settling. For now, it's enough to let this layer rest. Pressure does not demand meaning. It does not require interpretation. It simply supports the body in doing what it is already ready to do. Rest. Purring often arrives after the body has already begun to settle. Not at the beginning, not as a request, not as an invitation. It emerges once warmth, pressure, and stillness are already in place. This timing matters. Purring is commonly misunderstood as a signal directed outward, a message meant to be received, a form of communication that requires response. But in many contexts, purring is not performative. It is regulatory. Cats purr when they are comfortable. They also purr when they are injured. They purr when resting alone. They purr when nothing else is happening. The common thread is not emotion. It is internal state. Purring appears most reliably when the nervous system is shifting toward regulation. The sound itself is produced by rhythmic activation of muscles in the larynx and diaphragm. This creates a vibration that travels through the body. That vibration has measurable effects. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. It lowers arousal. It supports tissue recovery. It encourages stillness. These effects are not symbolic. They are physical. This is why purring often continues even when no one is nearby. The cat is not expressing something. The cat is stabilizing something. When a cat rests on a person and begins to purr, the purring is not for the person. It is for the cat's own body. The timing reflects this. The cat does not purr to initiate contact. It purrs once contact is already stable. This suggests that purring is part of the same regulatory sequence as settling and pressure. Not a separate behavior, not a social signal layered on top. It is an internal process that follows rest. The vibration created by purring travels through the chest, limbs, and abdomen. It provides sensory feedback. It reinforces stillness. The body becomes quieter from the inside. This is why purring often deepens as rest deepens. The sound may grow steadier, the vibration more consistent. As arousal decreases, the rhythm stabilizes. Importantly, purring does not require interaction to continue. The cat does not need to be touched. It does not need to be acknowledged. It does not need reassurance. The process is self-sustaining. If the environment remains stable, purring continues. If conditions change, it may stop. Again, this is not emotional withdrawal. It is regulation responding to new input. Purring also does not indicate that the cat wants the moment to continue indefinitely. It does not create expectation. It does not bind the cat to the position. It simply supports the body while the conditions allow. This is why purring may stop abruptly when the cat moves. Not because the cat is upset, but because the regulatory context has changed. The body no longer needs that vibration. Understanding purring in this way removes pressure. It allows the sound to exist without interpretation. You do not need to read into it. You do not need to respond. You do not need to preserve it. It is not a signal that asks for anything. As you listen, you may notice how vibration affects your own body, how low, steady sounds can feel grounding, how rhythm can quiet attention. This is not accidental. Purring works through physical mechanisms that influence nervous system state. It is not dependent on belief or emotion. Cats use it because it works. In the context of rest, purring often marks a deepening phase. The body has settled. Pressure is stable. Stillness is sustained. The nervous system moves further toward ease. This is why purring often appears just before sleep, not as a sign of contentment to others, but as part of the body's preparation for rest. In the next section, we'll look at what happens as this process continues, how stillness deepens, how awareness fades, and how departure, when it comes, does not disrupt what has already happened. For now, it's enough to let the sound be what it is: a vibration, a regulation, a quiet support for a body already at rest. It does not need interpretation. It does not need response. It simply happens for as long as it helps. After settling, after pressure stabilizes, after purring appears or fades, there is often a final shift. The body stops preparing. This does not happen all at once. It arrives gradually, without a clear boundary. Movements become smaller, adjustments slow. The need to reposition fades. The cat is no longer evaluating the environment. It is no longer checking for change. It is no longer maintaining readiness. Sleep begins to take over. For cats, this transition is fluid. They do not announce it. They do not commit to it. They drift. The difference between light rest and sleep is not always visible from the outside. Eyes may remain partially open. Ears may still respond. But inside, the nervous system has shifted. Arousal drops. Muscle tone decreases. Breathing becomes slower and more regular. The body has accepted the environment as sufficiently stable. This is why cats can fall asleep on people without ceremony. They do not need to be convinced. They do not need reassurance. They simply remain where rest has already been allowed. Importantly, this does not mean the cat has chosen to stay indefinitely. Sleep does not require commitment. It requires conditions. As long as warmth remains consistent, pressure remains even, stillness remains present, and monitoring remains low, sleep continues. When any of these change, the body responds. The cat may wake, it may adjust, it may leave. This departure is not a decision. It is not a signal. It is not a reaction to the person. It is the same automatic process that allowed rest to begin. Conditions update. The body follows. Understanding this helps soften how we experience these moments. A cat sleeping on you is not making a promise. It is not offering something that can be lost. It is simply staying as long as the environment allows sleep to continue. When sleep ends, it ends cleanly. There is no lingering attachment to the moment. No regret, no evaluation. The cat wakes, stretches, and moves on. What happened was complete. From a human perspective, this can feel sudden. We often attach meaning to duration. We assume that longer presence implies greater significance. But for cats, duration reflects stability, not intention. Sleep lasts as long as conditions remain favorable. No longer, no shorter. This is why cats can sleep deeply on people one day and not the next. Nothing has changed between you. Something has changed in the environment. Light, sound, temperature, movement. The body responds to what is present now. As you listen, you may notice how this idea reduces pressure, how it allows moments to exist without needing to last, how it removes the sense of something being taken away when they end. Sleep is not an achievement. It is a state the body enters when it can. Cats are skilled at entering and leaving this state without friction. They do not resist waking. They do not cling to rest. They move with the conditions. This fluidity is part of what makes their behavior feel quiet and complete. In the next phase, we'll begin to gently step back from mechanics and into variation. We'll look at how different cats express comfort differently and why comparison is unnecessary. But for now, it's enough to rest here. A cat stays until sleep takes over, and when sleep loosens its hold, the cat leaves. Nothing is broken. Nothing is undone. Rest has already happened, and that is enough. Not every cat chooses to sit on people. Some never do. Some do so rarely. Some prefer to rest nearby rather than directly on a body. This difference does not need explanation. It does not signal distance. It does not imply lack of trust. It reflects variation. Cats, like people, have different comfort styles. Some seek physical contact. Some prefer shared space without touch. Some are most at ease when their bodies remain entirely their own. None of these tendencies are better than the others. For a cat that prefers independence, resting on a person may simply introduce more variables than it removes. Movement, heat shifts, changes in posture. Even gentle changes can feel unnecessary. That does not mean the cat is uncomfortable. It means the cat is selective. Comfort, for these cats, may come from proximity without contact, from resting on the same bed, in the same room, within the same quiet environment. The nervous system can settle without direct physical support. This is why some cats follow people from room to room, but do not climb onto them. The environment is familiar. The presence is stable. But contact is not required. Again, this is not emotional distance. It is preference. Cats are not uniform in how they express ease. Some externalize it. Some internalize it. A cat that never sits on people may still be deeply relaxed in their presence. The signs simply appear elsewhere. Long stretches, slow blinking, settling nearby, sleeping with their back turned. These behaviors indicate comfort just as clearly as physical closeness. Absence of contact is not rejection. It is a different configuration of rest. Understanding this helps release comparison. There is no baseline behavior a cat must meet. There is no standard of closeness to measure against. Each cat regulates itself differently. Some bodies calm through contact, some calm through space. Both are valid. This also means that behavior can vary even within the same cat. A cat may seek contact in one context and avoid it in another. The difference may come down to temperature, noise, energy levels, time of day. The body responds to what it needs in the moment. When we remove expectation, these variations become easier to accept. A cat that does not sit on you is not withholding anything. It is not choosing against you. It is simply resting in the way that feels least demanding. This understanding allows space. You do not need to earn closeness. You do not need to wait for it. You do not need to interpret its absence. The cat's body is already doing what it needs to do. As you listen, you may notice how much relief exists in this idea, how it removes the need to compare, how it allows each behavior to stand on its own. There is no right amount of contact. There is no ideal pattern. There is only the body responding to what allows it to rest. In the next section, we'll look at how early experiences can shape these preferences without locking them in place. We'll explore how comfort styles form gently and how they adapt over time. For now, it's enough to rest with this truth. Some cats sit on people, some do not. Both are expressions of comfort, and neither requires explanation. Every cat arrives at rest carrying a history, not a story, not a memory that can be recalled, but a set of bodily experiences that quietly shape what feels tolerable, familiar, or unnecessary. Early life plays a role in this, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that fixes behavior permanently, but in a way that influences comfort thresholds. Kittens experience the world first through contact, through warmth, through pressure, through proximity. In those early weeks, bodies are handled, moved, held, and supported in different ways. Some kittens spend long periods pressed against littermates. Some experience frequent human contact. Some encounter less physical handling overall. These differences do not create outcomes. They create tendencies. A kitten who experiences frequent gentle contact may grow into a cat that tolerates closeness easily, not because it seeks it, but because the body recognizes it as non-threatening. Another kitten may have had less physical contact early on, or contact that was inconsistent, or contact that required more adjustment. That cat's body may prefer space, not because it is wary, but because contact does not add enough benefit to justify the extra sensory input. This is not trauma, it is calibration. The nervous system learns what levels of stimulation are comfortable, what requires effort, what can be ignored. These preferences form without language, without interpretation, without emotion. They simply exist as part of the body's operating range. Importantly, early experience does not lock a cat into one pattern forever. Cats are adaptable. Their nervous systems update continuously. Preferences shift as bodies mature, environments change, and energy levels fluctuate. A cat that avoided contact when young may seek it later in life. A cat that once rested on people frequently may choose space later on. These changes are not losses, they are adjustments. Early experience influences tolerance, not capacity. A cat that prefers space is not missing something. It is resting in a way that feels efficient. Likewise, a cat that seeks contact is not dependent. It is responding to a set of conditions that feel familiar. Neither pattern is better. Neither requires correction. It can be tempting to assume that cats who seek contact are more secure or more bonded, and that cats who prefer space are distant or guarded. But this interpretation places meaning where there is none. Comfort styles reflect nervous system tuning, not emotional availability. Two cats can feel equally safe in the same environment and express that safety differently. One may curl into a lap, Another may sleep a few feet away. Both are resting. Understanding this allows compassion to replace concern. There is no need to diagnose preference. No need to trace it back to a single cause. No need to worry that something went wrong. Early experiences contribute to how a body organizes comfort. They do not define what that comfort must look like. This perspective also allows room for change without anxiety. If a cat begins seeking more contact later in life, it does not mean something was missing before. It means conditions have shifted. If a cat begins seeking less contact, it does not mean something has been lost. It means the body is responding differently now. Cats age, their bodies change, their tolerance for stimulation evolves, needs become simpler, or quieter, or more selective. These shifts are natural. They do not require explanation. They do not imply decline or withdrawal. They reflect adaptation. As you listen, you may notice how freeing this idea is, how it removes the need to interpret behavior as progress or regression, how it allows patterns to change without being judged. Cats do not measure their comfort against a past version of themselves. They respond to what their bodies need now. Early experience shapes the landscape of comfort, but it does not draw borders around it. Preferences soften, they expand, they contract. The body remains responsive. In the next section, we'll look at how these preferences can continue to change over time, across seasons, across stages of life, across shifts in environment and routine. For now, it's enough to rest with this understanding. Early experiences influence comfort. They do not confine it. The body adapts, it always has. And rest continues to find new shapes. Comfort does not stay fixed. For cats, the places they choose to rest are not permanent decisions. They are responses to what the body needs now. As time passes, those needs change. Not abruptly, not dramatically, but quietly, in ways that are easy to miss if we are looking for meaning instead of movement. A cat that once rested on people may begin to choose nearby spaces instead. A cat that once preferred distance may start settling closer. A pattern that felt consistent for years may soften or shift. This is not a loss. It is adjustment. Bodies change with age. Muscles tighten or loosen. Joints feel different. Energy fluctuates. Sensitivity to temperature increases or fades. These changes influence where rest feels easiest. A lap that once felt ideal may become too warm. A chest that once felt stable may feel too high. A surface that once required no effort may now demand adjustment. The body responds. It does not mourn the change. It does not compare past comfort to present comfort. It simply moves toward what requires the least work. Cats do not carry nostalgia for old resting places. They do not try to recreate earlier patterns. They do not resist change. They adapt. Environmental changes also play a role. Households shift. Routines evolve. Furniture moves. Noise levels change. Light patterns alter with seasons. What once provided stillness may no longer do so. What once felt predictable may now carry interruption. The body updates its preferences accordingly. This is why cats may stop sitting on people during certain periods of life and resume later, or never resume at all. Nothing has been taken away. The body is responding to different conditions. It is important to notice how quietly this happens. Cats do not announce transitions. They do not signal that a phase has ended. They simply begin resting elsewhere. From a human perspective, this can feel personal. We may assume that closeness has diminished, that something meaningful has changed between us. But for the cat, the change is logistical. Rest has found a new configuration. This understanding can soften the experience. It allows us to observe change without attaching significance to it. It allows us to let go of expectations formed in earlier moments. A cat resting beside you instead of on you is not less comfortable. A cat resting in another room is not less safe. A cat changing patterns is not withdrawing. It is adapting. This adaptability is part of what makes feline behavior feel fluid. There are no milestones to reach, no behaviors to maintain, no patterns to preserve. Comfort is not something cats hold on to. It is something they move through. This perspective also frees us from needing consistency as proof. A moment of rest does not gain value by repeating. It does not lose value when it ends. It stands on its own. A cat sitting on you once was complete. A cat sitting on you many times was complete. A cat not sitting on you now is also complete. Nothing needs to be compared. As cats age, their tolerance for stimulation often changes. Some become more selective. Some seek quieter spaces. Some choose positions that reduce strain or effort. These choices reflect care for the body, not distance from others. Just as humans adjust how they rest over time, cats do the same. We change how we sleep, where we sit, what feels comfortable. We do not interpret this as loss. We understand it as adaptation. Cats deserve the same understanding. As you listen, you may notice how much pressure disappears when change is allowed. How much lighter it feels when behavior is not treated as a message. How rest becomes easier to witness when it is not required to repeat itself. Cats do not grieve old comfort. They do not chase it. They do not protect it. They follow what works now. And when something new works better, they move there without hesitation. This ability to change without attachment is not detachment. It is flexibility. It allows rest to remain possible across a lifetime, across different bodies, across different environments. Nothing is lost when patterns change. Comfort has simply taken another shape. As we move toward the final phase, we'll begin to step back from explanation altogether. We'll return to the present moment, to rest as it exists now, without history or future. For now, it's enough to let this settle. Change does not erase comfort. It redirects it. And wherever the body finds ease next, rest will follow. As we begin to step away from explanation, it can help to return to what is happening right now. Not what has happened before, not what may happen again. Just the moment as it exists. When a cat chooses a place to rest, that choice lives only briefly. It does not stretch backward. It does not reach forward. It does not carry meaning beyond the moment in which it occurs. The body arrives. The body settles. And for a while, that is all. This is easy to forget. We are accustomed to choices that imply intention. We expect decisions to create continuity. We assume that what happens now says something about what will happen later. Cats do not organize rest this way. For For them, rest is not a pattern to maintain. It is a state to enter when conditions allow. The moment those conditions are present, the body responds. When they change, the response changes too. Nothing persists. This is why a cat can sit on you tonight and not tomorrow. Why the same place can feel perfect one day and unnecessary the next. Why rest appears and disappears without explanation. The choice does not travel. It dissolves as soon as the moment changes. This does not make the moment fragile. It makes it complete. There is no need to preserve it, no need to repeat it, no need to hold on to it in memory. The cat does not carry the experience forward. It does not expect it to return. It does not wait for it. It simply responds again when the body is ready. This way of moving through rest can feel unfamiliar to us. We often try to anchor moments. We want them to mean something. We want them to say something about connection, stability, or belonging. But for a cat, rest is not a statement. It is an event. It happens, and then it ends. When a cat sits on you, it is not choosing you in a lasting sense. It is choosing a set of conditions that exist right now. Warmth, stillness, support, predictability. If those conditions exist elsewhere tomorrow, the body will go there instead. Not because anything has changed between you, but because the present moment has changed. This understanding removes urgency. You do not need to hold still longer than is comfortable. You do not need to worry about disrupting something important. You do not need to make the moment last. The cat is not keeping track. The moment is already complete. As you listen, you may notice how this perspective allows you to relax, how it removes responsibility, how it makes the experience lighter. Nothing is being built. Nothing is being undone. Nothing is being evaluated. The cat rests, and when rest is finished, it moves on. This is not indifference, it is simplicity. Cats are very good at inhabiting the present. They do not resist change. They do not anticipate loss. They do not rehearse return. They arrive fully. They leave cleanly. In this way, comfort moves freely. It is not tied to one place. It is not bound to one body. It flows toward whatever supports it in the moment. This is why rest does not feel dramatic when it begins or ends. There is no ceremony, no signal, no conclusion, just movement or stillness as needed. As we continue toward rest, we will let explanation fade even further. We will loosen our hold on meaning. We will allow observation to soften. For now, it is enough to notice this. A cat choosing a place to rest is not making a promise. It is not forming a habit that must repeat. It is not creating a memory that needs to be protected. It is responding to now. And when now passes, the choice passes with it. Nothing remains unfinished. Nothing needs to be carried forward. The moment has already done what it needed to do. And in that quiet completion, rest continues, wherever it finds the conditions to exist next. At some point, it becomes clear that nothing more needs to be said. Not because everything has been explained, but because explanation itself has softened. When a cat rests on you, the weight they bring is simple. It does not lean forward. It does not press for response. It does not ask to be noticed. It is just there. This is easy to miss. We are used to interactions that require something in return. attention, interpretation, action. But this wait asks for none of that. The cat is not waiting for reassurance. It is not checking for approval. It is not seeking confirmation that the moment is allowed to continue. The body has already settled. In this way, the wait becomes almost invisible. Not because it disappears, but because it no longer interrupts anything. It blends into the environment, into warmth, into stillness, into quiet. This is why cats can rest on people without engagement. They do not need conversation. They do not need movement. They do not need to be acknowledged. They are not participating in an exchange. They are simply resting. This absence of demand can feel unfamiliar. We often assume that presence implies obligation, that closeness requires something in return. But cats are comfortable with neutrality. They allow moments to exist without asking them to become more. A cat's wait does not carry expectation. It does not build toward meaning. It does not seek continuation. It arrives. It remains. And when conditions change, it leaves. Nothing about this process requires response. You do not need to stay still longer than you can. You do not need to worry about disrupting something fragile. You do not need to hold the moment carefully. The cat is not holding it either. This understanding can be relieving. It allows you to let go of performance, to stop monitoring your own behavior, to stop wondering whether you are doing the moment right. There is no right way to be present here. The cat has already found what it needs. Your role is incidental. This does not diminish the experience. It lightens it. The moment is free from expectation on both sides. As you listen, you may notice how this idea softens your body, how your shoulders drop, how your breathing becomes easier, how attention loosens its grip. Nothing needs to be done. Observation itself can soften. You do not need to analyze the weight. You do not need to decide what it means. You do not need to store it as memory. You can simply notice it, or not notice it at all. Both are acceptable. Cats are skilled at allowing comfort to exist without ceremony. They do not announce rest. They do not frame it. They do not preserve it. They let it happen. And when it ends, they do not mark the ending. They stand. They stretch. They move on. The wait leaves as quietly as it arrived. No explanation is given. No meaning is withdrawn. Nothing is lost. This is why trying to interpret these moments can feel disruptive. Not because interpretation is wrong, but because it introduces effort where none is required. The wait does not ask to be understood. It does not ask to be reciprocated. It asks for nothing. As we move toward the final section, we will allow even this observation to fade. We will let the presence loosen. We will stop tracking whether the cat stays or leaves. For now, it is enough to rest with this idea. A cat's wait can exist without demand, without message, without expectation. It can simply be part of the moment. And when the moment changes, the wait will change with it. Nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to be remembered. The body knows when to rest, and it knows when to move on. You can allow the same ease. There is nothing required of you here. Just the quiet permission to let the moment be exactly what it already is. At the end of all this, nothing needs to conclude. There is no final idea to carry forward, no summary to remember, no meaning to hold on to. Rest does not require closure. A cat may still be there, curled, heavy, breathing slowly, or the cat may have already moved on, stretching, stepping away, finding another place where the body can soften again. Either way, rest remains. This is the quiet truth underneath everything we've explored. Comfort does not belong to one position. It does not depend on proximity. It does not require repetition. It moves. When conditions support it, the body settles. When conditions change, the body adapts. Nothing is gained. Nothing is lost. If a cat stays, that is fine. If a cat leaves, that is also fine. The moment does not need to last in order to be complete. Cats understand this instinctively. They do not resist the end of rest. They do not cling to it. They do not worry about whether it will return. They trust that when the body needs ease again, it will find it. That trust allows them to move lightly through their environment, to rest deeply, and to leave without friction. As you listen now, you may notice that the same permission exists for you. You do not need to stay alert. You do not need to follow every thought. You do not need to keep listening in a particular way. If sleep arrives, let it. If wakefulness remains, let that be enough too. There is no right outcome. The cat does not measure the moment, and you do not need to either. This space was never meant to teach. It was never meant to convince. It was never meant to explain everything completely. It was meant to soften attention, to lower effort, to allow rest to happen in the background, quietly. Whether the cat stayed or left, whether you stayed awake or drifted off, whether anything changed at all, nothing needs to be evaluated. The body knows what to do next. If you are still listening, you can allow the words to fade. You don't need to follow them anymore. They can become part of the background, like breathing or distant sound. If you are already asleep, then rest has done what it needed to do. And if you wake later and notice that something has shifted, less tension, slower thoughts, a quieter body, that is enough. There is no lesson here, no takeaway to apply. Just the reminder that rest does not ask for meaning. It does not need explanation. It does not require permission. It arrives when it can, and it leaves when it must. Cats move with this ease. They do not hold on to moments. They trust the next one. You can allow yourself the same kindness. Nothing needs to continue. Nothing needs to end. Rest remains, quietly, naturally, wherever the body finds space to soften next.